Yo, welcome to Black Men Save Yourselves, a podcast. Hey, so rich men account. We are held accountable. Well, I'm not rich, but I like to think of myself in the future tense. And I would say, as rich men, we account for things. We're accountable. People hold us accountable. We can't be secretive. Like, that's out of the question. You know, in the military, they call the lowest ranking individuals privates. Well, the Army and Marines, they have privates. No one ever really questioned, though, like, why the word private, right? You're called a private because, in my opinion, at least, I don't know if this is true or not, but you're called a private because if you make a mistake, that mistake is in private. Everything that you do is, nobody knows about it. Like, you're not exposed. If you get a DUI, if you mess up on a mission, if you do A, B, and C, it can be held in private. You know, if you succeed as well, like, you know, who knows about it? Like, not many people. But that's a gift to you because you can work and you can go home, you know. And if you extended this out to somebody that works at Walmart and they stock boxes or whatever the case, you know, and they don't supervise anybody, everything that they do, their mess ups, their failures and all of that can be in private. They can get their check and go home. That's what that means. It's not a bad thing to be there, but if you want more money in this world, if you want more status, the privacy gets ripped away. It's not about more skills. It's not about more leadership. Well, I don't want to say it's not about that because they do play a role, but ultimately, the more privacy that you're able to rip away from your life is the more people will pay you. A lot of people aren't willing to go through the extremes on that. If you think about a president, the president of the United States, no privacy whatsoever. They wake up probably to a maid or some kind of assistant. Hey, sir, get up. You got a 6:30 here, 7:30 here, whatever the case. That assistant knows everything about you. You're not going to get like 30 minutes to like beat off or jack off. Like, that's not going to happen. There's too much stuff going on. You probably get a little bit of privacy in the bathroom. But even then, like, you got guards and stuff watching you. Because, you know, who knows when somebody would try to assassinate you or whatever the case, right? Like, that could happen. That's a thing in a president's life. Like, that's unavoidable. People will try to hurt you. And if you multiply that across America, like, think about Elon Musk. Think about Jeff Bezos. Think about these CEOs of these companies. You know that they have disgruntled employees, or probably someone had maybe they had a dad to die in one of the factories and they want revenge. And people will try to do things like that. So it's like, people are always after you. People are always trying to bug your equipment. People are always trying to record inside your apartment, trying to see what you're doing. You know, you got paparazzi around you, always trying to get autographs and things like that. Like, you know, people like Justin Bieber, like, with the money that he's made over the years, like, he gets no privacy. That's your, you know, okay, I will give you money and then give me your privacy. And this is one of those things that a lot of black men miss. We want our privacy. We want to do our little dirt, you know, or whatever the case. But we want to get paid massive amounts of money. Who lives like that? Who lives like that? You know, if I were rich, man, if I was, you know, $1 billion deep or whatever the case, I'd have cameras everywhere. I would, because I would know that people were watching me. So I just want to watch them. You know, you probably got drones watching you, got all type of stuff watching you. You know, no one's going to give someone any measure of money or power and not want to know what they're doing. If the bank were to, let's just say the bank were to, you went into the bank and you applied for a business loan, and the bank gave you $50,000. The bank is going to want to know everything about that business, and then they're going to want to snoop in on operations. It just is what it is. So a lot of people be like I've seen a lot of, I guess a lot of social media propaganda around, I guess the sentiment that it's easier to get a student loan than a business loan. It's easier to get a student loan than a business loan. You know, an 18-year-old will never get a business loan, but he will get a student loan in a heartbeat. Now, why is that? People don't want to be snooped in on. People don't want to be as transparent at 18. Like, it makes perfect sense why. People don't want to, like, they want to get a business loan and be totally private. They want to get a business loan and write the minimum amount of information in a business plan. That is the ultimate thing for, like, that's what people want to do. Give me my $50,000 and then I'll pay you back in a year. How I'm going to pay you back, let me figure that out, is the sentiment. And so they move on. So there's an expectation of privacy when you get a loan from people that you don't get. You don't get to have that. I've just given you $50,000. I've just given you $500,000. You do not get privacy. I get to walk through your business like I own it. Because I've just given you my money. That is the real, that's the reason around that. So if I promote you to president of my company, if I promote you to CEO of my company or whatever, like if the company agrees that that's where you belong, you don't have the privacy to go to a strip club. You don't have that. You don't have the privacy to, fooling around in the streets with women, not unless you're single. Like, if you married and things like that, the expectation is that after you leave work, you're at home with your family. You don't do nothing else. Play with the kids and things like that and go to work. You don't get drunk. You don't get high. You don't do anything that would make you look like a drifter. That's not what you do. The minute you do that, we're going to expose you and take away all of this stuff because we trust you. We trust you. So yeah, if you're the type that, you can't leave drinking alone, you can't leave women alone, you can't leave all of that stuff alone, but then you also want the money and the responsibility, somebody lied to you, man. Somebody lied to you. Now, you're probably thinking of like rappers. You're like, well, I know all of these rappers and they do it. That's because that is ingrained in the lifestyle. So for them, it's the opposite. Like, now they are expected to be fornicators and adulterers and drinkers and alcoholics. So they can't go the other way at that point. They can't, then you can't be somebody like, I don't know, like Eminem, and then say, I want to change my life and not do any of this stuff. Because the minute you do that, your record sales are going to bloop down to the ground. So it's the same way. It's just the same stuff. Like, once we give you this money, this power, this influence, you cannot deviate from the person that we think you are. You're locked in. So the minute you deviate, we get to clown you, we get to trash you, we get to take it all away. Russell Westbrook, the minute that he became the guy that couldn't get triple doubles on his team, people clowned him. People, took that power away from him. People disrespected him. People, you have the right because we gave you that power. We gave you that trust. Now, I'm one of those guys that still likes Russell Westbrook, but I'm giving you the reason behind it. And you could insert any superstar there. The reason why nobody ever took it from Michael Jordan is because he was able to stay consistent. And I feel like when he knew that he couldn't stay consistent anymore, he retired. And then he came back later in his ages and stuff like that. And even though, he didn't win, he was still able to put up 20, and then even some games like putting up 60 and things like that. So it's like this guy's, doing his thing. And he's living up to the exceeding expectations at 40, 41 years old. We can't take nothing from him. He's doing his job. He's doing his thing. Oh, well, let's go and look at somewhere else. Like you can't target him at that point. Because he's staying consistent. He's living up to expectations and then exceeding them. So a lot of you guys out there, man, have to ask yourself the question. If I make $1 million being a certain person, can I sustain the ideal? Can I sustain the person that people paid me to be? If I were to give you $100 million and say, hey, now you run Tesla, now you run the largest electric car company in the world. I didn't pay you for your knowledge. I paid you for your grind. I paid you for your ability to learn on the fly. I paid you for your ability to manage people and manage operations. That's what I paid you for, to execute. The minute you lose the ability to execute, I can take all of that away from you. So yes, quote unquote, you are the richest man in the world. And yes, quote unquote, people do love you. But again, the minute you can't execute, all of that, we're taking that. And you're going to look like a has-been. So yeah, you should be probably not sleeping at night. You should feel like a paranoid mess. I remember reading something about Bill Gates where they said Bill Gates had nightmares about a kid coming up with the perfect thing to replace Microsoft. So that's why Microsoft is so good to everyone. Everybody likes Microsoft, right? So he actually had nightmare scenario, like he panicked all the time. And when you read about all of those, like why you just be cool, man? You already got all this money. The reason why he couldn't be cool is he had to execute. He had to execute. The minute that he didn't execute, people were going to take that money away from him. That money is conditional. That money was like all of those shares, like especially if you do it like to where like you're borrowing against your worth, borrowing against your shares. All of that money is contingent upon you being you. Do we want that? As black men, ask yourself, do we want that? Because, the military probably gets a lot of like people being like, nah, I could never join the military. I don't get no freedom. I can't grow out my hair. I can't smoke weed. I can't do X, Y, and Z. Like fair. That's fair. I will give you that. Do you think when you make the money that you think you deserve, when you make the money that you desire to get, do you think you're going to have the freedom? I've already said, like, even if you're a rapper, now you have dreads in your hair. Okay, cool. You better not go bald. The minute you go bald, we're going to take some of that stock away from you. If you go completely bald and cut your hair, nah, bro. Nope. We're taking all of that back. We're taking all that money and all of that belief we had in you back because you changed. You got old. So if you think about somebody like Lil Wayne couldn't just like cut his hair. Like we all see what's happening to his head, right? But he couldn't just cut his hair because once we decided that he was one of the greatest rappers of all time and gave him that level of clout, now your image is frozen in our minds. That is the person that we're paying. We're not paying this new Lil Wayne that cut his hair. We're not paying this new Lil Wayne that got saved and goes to church now. We're not paying him. You know, same thing for Kanye West. If you look at somebody like him, like we as a society, I'm not talking about me because I have different opinions that differ from society, obviously. But I'm saying like we as Americans, we pay Kanye West. We make sure Kanye West stays rich. In exchange, Kanye West has to act crazy. Like he's completely batshit. So when you read things in the media and you see that Kanye West did A, B, and C, like, can you really believe it? Or is it the contract that he basically signed with America saying that he will act like this? Him and Kim Kardashian will act like this. That is the contract that they signed with America. The minute they become civilized and private, bloop, money's gone. You think about Beyonce and Jay-Z, like the stock that black people put into them. The minute they start acting, more free on social media and doing much more, not being themselves, just trying to be free, do other things, bloop, we're taking that. The list can go on and on. Like, are you ready for that? Are you ready to not be free? Because that is what the money does. The more money that it's like money is really handcuffs. I'm telling you right now, like people think of money as like, oh man, I'll be able to go travel. I'll be able to buy people things. I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, I will give you that. Money is the ultimate freedom, freedom paper. However, don't change that's why, like, when you get money, before you get money, please make sure you're the person that you want to be and don't switch it up. Now, yes, grow, become more wise, become more efficient, but don't change the overall core of the person and the image that you were when we started paying you. Don't do that, because the minute you do, I'm going to be like, nah, man, I'm taking that back. And I would say that, if we take these celebrities or if we take a CEO and they started trying to be secretive, they started being like, no, I want my reasonable amount of privacy. And yes, to a point we give them that, but sustained privacy, like if we didn't hear from some of these people in over a year, that's bad. That's not good. It's one of those things where it's like, if you want to be anybody in this world, you need to expose yourself. You need to expose yourself for criticism. To me, that's the number one ingredient to money. You have to be willing to take the fall for things that are not your fault, or things that other people wouldn't take the fall for. So for me, I feel like, well, I'm trying to better myself as a black man. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to be open, as open as possible when it comes to how I use my phone, how I use my computer, what I search for, things like that. That's just me. That's just the approach that I made. And so when it comes to like semen retention and NoFap, it's like, if you're accountable, if your browser history is accountable, like somebody else can look over that and be like, man, you fapped at that, or man, you looked at that. Like, that's a big sting, man. And so it makes you want to stay on your grind. So I'm not like advertising for any kind of software, but there's software out there where, people can check your browser history. People can get alerts when you visit, porn sites. People can get alerts when you visit social media and Facebook and bullshit on there all day. People can get alerts. And being accountable, that's how you emulate that level of accountability, while not getting paid the same amount. And you do that because you're getting yourself ready for that criticism. You're getting yourself ready to walk that fine line, And it just, to me, it made sense. Like, so it's like, you hear all of these stories where all the like the CEOs and things like that, they're the bad guys, and then the workers and the people that are working for them are the good guys, and you're there to take down the man or the big bad corporate. You're there to take down big bad corporate, and people don't ever see it the other way. Like the people that are corporate are humans too, and I would say they have a much more noble job, because not only are they trying to solve a problem that's probably unsolvable and they'll probably will never be solved in their lifetime, but they are also exposed all the time to where they have to, all right, my son has to go to this school, my son has to be picked up by bodyguards, my son, everybody knows my son's first and last name. Everybody knows how my son looks, so if they want to kidnap him, they just match his picture to his face and then snatch him up. So now I'm worried about that. I'm worried about kidnapping and ransom money. I'm worried about being exposed, because more people know me, more people know my family than the average person. So yeah, so hopefully you take this podcast as self-improvement and not as fearing. Hopefully you don't fear being more exposed, because, that's what you're going to have to be if you want to be high value in this world. Instead, you take it as, all right, the first thing that I need to let go in this world, I need to let go of is my privacy. You know what I'm saying? Like, now, don't take this as one of those. I'm not advocating for surveillance or for government surveillance or for Overwatch and things like that. That's not what I'm doing. So let me disclaim that right now. Like, I do believe in the choice of privacy. If you choose to be private, you should have that choice as a human being. Like, that is your dignity. That is your right. What I am simply saying is no one will want to give you absorbent of like just crazy amounts of money until they can peek into your life. If you're Justin Bieber, like, what if Justin Bieber could just like sing in a studio and go home? Not ever have to do any shows, not ever have to be in danger, not ever have to sign any autographs. Just perfect privacy. All he has to do is sing. I'm probably like outdated a little bit. I don't know if Justin Bieber is still hot, but I just knew Justin Bieber as like a bunch of teenage girls wanting him and stuff, right? So what if he gets to walk down the street every day by himself, nobody messing with him, don't have to worry about bodyguards or nothing, but he also gets to sing in the studio and make videos. Do you think that's fair? Now, from a black man's perspective, we'd be like, yeah, that's fair, but like, is it really? Because, people aren't paying him for his musical talent. Yeah, his musical talent is valid, but the people that are actually buying his albums and his concert tickets want to peek into his life. They want to get a piece of what he has going on. And that's for every person that's over that $1 million mark. That's for every celebrity. That's for every superstar. For Steph Curry, it's like everybody wants to talk to this man. Everybody wants to get like, imagine getting a shooting lesson on threes from Steph Curry. Like, even if you didn't play basketball, you'd still want that. You'd still want to ask him some questions. Like Elon Musk, even if you weren't into like, electric cars and, space travel, you still want to be around him to, soak up some of that gravy, so to speak, right? So it's like, yeah, it's like, that's what we're really paying you for. Like, it is good and it's noble to like change the world, but like, people are paying you for a reason that may not align with what you think. If you want to pay a rapper, it's the same thing as Justin Bieber. It's like, yeah, your music may be jamming, but before we pay for your concert and your merchandise, we want a piece of your lifestyle, man. That's how America is. And that's across the board. That's entertainers, that's CEOs, that's anybody, that's the president, that's anybody. People want to have the right to, you know, post if you think about President Biden and Vice President Harris, people want to have the freedom to put out memes clowning the president. That's what they want. So that's why they will allow a president, because people want to be able to criticize them if they wanted to. That's the whole point. That's the name of the game. Like, you open yourself to so much criticism. If you think about any, like, even a commander of an army or whatever the case, like if you're a general, like, the decisions you make are going to be so scrutinized, and nobody's going to ever see your side of the story. Forget that. That don't matter. What matters is my side of the story, because I'm the one that's getting paid pennies while you're getting paid like a boss. So now that gives me, and I'm speaking, I'm not really speaking in terms of what I believe. I'm speaking the general consensus, like the general thoughts, right? People generally think, well, since he's getting paid like a boss and I'm getting paid like a peasant, I have the right to criticize this man. Never to his face, but I can say whatever I want, you know, and almost borderline slander his name, you know, because that's how I cope with the fact that I'm not adequate enough to go after something just as big or even half as big. Like, that's real game right there. Like, you should be paying me for that game. Like, instead of, like, people hate all the time on, like, people that get money. Like, they'll say, okay, well, you know, yeah, those guys are corrupt, like Illuminati and stuff like that. Like, stuff comes out like that, and they start trying to judge, you know, people that get paid money, like big money. But then what they don't realize is they haven't been in those shoes. Like, put yourself in those shoes of those people that are getting all that money. Like, would you do those things? Like, would you make those same decisions? Like, you can't really say until you get put in those shoes. Now, this is a disclaimer. I'm not telling people to, you know, go in the way of some of this Illuminati, these allegations, or boule or whatever, or some sexual rituals. And I'm not telling you to do that. What I'm simply saying is, you know, they're there for whatever reason. And somebody finds value in why they are there. So, you know, instead of trying to judge someone that has it, that has what you might have, or, you know, put them down to your level, just choose a different path. A path where people will value you. So, one of the things that always confused me is how you could glorify rap and hip hop and all of that, you know, all of that crazy club music and stuff, which I have too, by the way. So I'm not holier than thou. But I'm saying, like, how you could be in that culture and then turn right around and judge somebody in Illuminati for the things that they worship, or the double worshiping and all of that. Like, with me being in rap and rapping and saying all of the stuff that I said, I knew in my head that, like, this ain't the best way for me to be spending my time. Like, yes, this is a stress reliever, and yes, I'm having fun, but, like, I know that there's a better use of my time and my words. So why wouldn't the extreme version of my rapping and my, you know, the things that I'm saying, why wouldn't the extreme version of that be something out of an Illuminati book? Be something out of a boule book where you like, oh, wow, they doing that. Oh, no, like, what did you think the end result was? You feel me? So that's why it's like, when people come, like, when that whole thing was, this was about 20 years ago when all this stuff came out, by the way. But when people were like sitting around watching that stuff, I'm like, yeah, this is no surprise to me. You know, because it's like, America trusts these guys to be the baddest, most free-thinking guys in the world. So that's why these rappers get all of this money. So the end result of that is what you're seeing in these cults and all of this stuff that's being leaked. So why don't you just flip it around, be a strong black man, and go with something noble, you know, something like a CEO of a nonprofit, or maybe you are for profit and you're bettering the world with your research or your inventions and things like that. That way, the end result of what you're doing is a philanthropist, somebody that can get down with the people and connect with people. Because a lot of guys like that rap and stuff like that, they rap and they say all of this crazy stuff, but they have good intentions in the end, and that's backwards. Not unless you are strictly rapping about motivating men to get something. In that case, then it's different. But I'm talking about like people that rap about killing people and having sex and stuff like that. Like if you're rapping like that, like the end result, like you should have the intelligence to see the end result of that. And if you're speaking positive stuff on a microphone and telling people to get off their ass and go out and get it and stuff like that, the end result of that should be like a motivational speaker, somebody that's looked up to for their, care for the community. So yeah, nothing's changed, it just boggles the mind. But yes, be willing to strip off that privacy if you want more money. Like, you have to be the person. Like, I would even say that on a lower level. If I promote you in my company, let's just say you get promoted, and you are now a supervisor, you can't then start to be the person, be a different person. So what a lot of people do, especially when they, make manager or whatever the case, they want to start voicing their opinions more. But they're not professional. Well, let me be careful when I'm saying this. Like, you are not. So there's a difference between an advisor and an opinionated person. So an advisor can give expert opinions at appropriate times, when it's asked for, when it's valued, when it's needed. That's an advisor. But an opinionated person gets frustrated, gets mad when things get hard, start blurting out ways that they would change things. So that's the difference. And so if you become more opinionated as you go up, in your company or whatever the case, then that is how you have changed and how you have deviated, how you have drifted from a valuable person, because the power went to your head. Now you think you're more untouchable when you are actually, as you go up, you are more touchable. You're more untouchable when you get paid less, because you're going home at reasonable times. You can show up late and nobody notice. You can do a half-ass job and somebody picks up the slack. That's the whole reason for the economic scale. Like if you say lower class, middle class, upper class, the lower class has more freedom to be who they want to be, to jump from job to job, from career to career. That is the benefit that the lower class has. Upper class has to stay on one track, not drift, not make the same mistakes, probably mistakes, but not the same mistakes, or not the amount and magnitude of mistakes that lower class individuals can get. So that's the trade-off. Like nothing, there has never been an unequal balance in the world. People like inequality, like wealth inequality. Nah, bro. That doesn't exist, because you're giving up your privacy and your time for the money. Everything has a price. Everything has a price. So the first thing that you could do, as if you are lowest on the totem pole and you're trying to get up higher, is you're gonna trade that time and privacy to move up, and that's the quickest way. I always thought that it was about skill. I always thought that if I had more skill than everyone else, I'd be fine. But I think the skill is one of those things where it is expected already. It is expected already. And if you have a shortfall in skill, it'll just get picked up by somebody else. Or, or whatever the case. If you have too low of skill, then obviously you can be fired, right? But don't try to measure yourself in terms of skill with another man, because yes, that you can stack yourself up, but to a certain point. Like there's going to be a ceiling where, regardless of skill, everyone is the same. That happens in every organization. So like to bump yourself up past that level, you have to get into, well, how can I trade quality time and privacy in exchange for more responsibility and more money, more clout? Because you think about it, it's like, what's the point? Like somebody say, what's the point of having $1 billion a year but getting no vacation time? What's the point? So it's like no one ever really excels past anybody in this world. Yeah, on the scoreboard of money, yes. Yes, in the scoreboard of quality of women and all of that, yes. But at the end of the day, like the time, the freedom to think, the freedom to change is limited as you go up, and it is what it is. The freedom to say, hey, I'm just gonna like be this wild and free person. Like if you think about, it's been about 2 years ago now, with all of these riots and things like that, or all of these protests and things like that, these racial protests, there's a certain group of people that couldn't be out there. Like I couldn't be out there. Like I couldn't be out protesting. Like that's the limitation that I have on my life. Not because I don't, like, I support the safety of black men being detained and arrested in the street. Like I think that they deserve a due process. They deserve to see their day in court, not be killed on the street. I support that sentiment, obviously. Like who doesn't? But I can't be out there because that is one of those things that I traded off for my status and my money. And so some people might be like, well, you sold your soul. Man, it is what it is. It's how you see it. But that eventually happens. You can't be certain places. You can't physically show up to certain places and do certain things when you make a certain amount of money. So that's what you give up. Again, that is because if I'm out there and I have a sign and I'm holding up a sign, yeah, I'm doing my thing. Yeah, I'm supporting a noble cause. But the minute a fight breaks out or a shooting breaks out and they look at the whole crowd and they look at me and then they look at my salary and then look at what I make and then look at the influence that I have in the workplace, now I am one of the high profile people that are out there. It is what it is. That's what happens. Now, I'm speaking relative to my city or my little town or my little metropolitan area. Like obviously it wouldn't make national news, but that's significant enough to cause shock waves at work. That's significant enough to affect my family's future. But if you work at Walmart, if you're a cashier and you show up with a sign out there and then the fight breaks out, you're just going to go to work the next day. You feel what I'm saying? Because you can just quit that job and go to another job. Nobody would know. Not to be insulting, not to be condescending. I'm saying it to lay you out a blueprint. If you want more money, you have to have more accountability. You have to be accountable for more. That's one of those things where it's like nobody ever told us that as black men, but it's like when we become fathers, we start to experience that. And when as fathers, as we run away from our responsibility or whatever the case, we shy away from it or whatever, not only obviously there's, multiple issues in that and, leaving a child without a father. We're not even talking about that right now, but that's not what you want to do. But more importantly, you're missing out on the life lessons of accountability. You're missing out on that. You're missing out on having to be responsible for something else, And I would say that, you're not going to get paid for it. It's kind of like, being a man, being a husband. That's like your internship, if you will. Because, if I go on a trip, I might be like, hey, where does everybody want to eat? And everybody like, I don't know, where you want to eat. And even though I know that the family is putting it on me to decide, if I decide a place where don't nobody want to eat at, I got to take the blame for that. I take the brunt of the responsibility for that. Now, it's not a super big deal. They'll get over it. But it's just funny how that works. Or if, they ask me, where do we want to go on vacation? Well, if I ask them where do they want to go and they can't decide, and then I decide and we end up having a terrible time, I'm going to get the blame for making that decision. That's how it is as a man. And so that should train you up for the things that you're going to face as you get more money. But there's more at stake because now your family's livelihood is at stake. So does that make sense? It's like you are, as a man, it's all a big ass circle. It's a cycle, a beautiful cycle. Like in your home as a man, you have to make certain decisions. You have to be a leader. You have to maintain the home. You have to do X, Y, and Z to keep the home going. And if you make the wrong decision, even if you didn't get any help, even if it was unfair, if you make the wrong decision, you have to take the brunt of the blame for that. And you have to live with the burden of the pain or the burden of the uncomfortability, the burden of the awkwardness, until you get it right some kind of way. You have no blueprint, no help, no whatever. Find help. Find a way. If you can't do it, pay somebody, but get it done. The dishwasher's broken, get it done. You can't fix it, pay somebody, but it needs to be done. Or you're going to take a hit in the eyes of your family. The front door doesn't work, it doesn't lock, find a way to do it or pay somebody to do it. Either way, it has to get done. If you get it done, things go on, life goes on. You get no credit. But if it fails, you get less credit. So we're going to take away that credit. If everyone has fun on this vacation, no one gets credit. Maybe the kids get credit or something like that. But if this vacation is not good, the father, your credit is taken. Do better, be better next time. And you don't have to see that as a negative. You see that as a positive, because once you enter the workplace, that's how that cycle continues. Like, you take those traits of being a man and being responsible and manning up to shit. Sometimes that's not even your fault. You take that mentality into the workplace and people see that you internalize that and you live by that every day. People are like, man, I gotta pay this man. And they pay you. But the stakes are higher now. But you're still taking those core principles that you learned from being a man in your household into the workplace. And it just repeats. So that's why I always preach that the money you make is almost directly equivalent to your level of manhood on this planet. If you see somebody that's down and out and they on the street and they can't make a living, you know that that's not a real man, regardless of what they've done in the past. Something has flipped in their mind, or whatever the case, that made them less than a man. That's just what it is. They're a male. Now, you might say that that's insensitive. Like, what if you were like, a soldier or something, and then you came back home and, whatever happened and you just faced bad luck? Okay, fine, I will give you that. People go through bad luck, but I'm telling you, it's just a matter of time. You're there, now bounce back. Because that's the making of a man as well. If you were the man at one point and then you got set back to being on your mama couch, you have zero time to sleep, zero time to go out, zero time to drink, zero time to smoke, zero time to hang with a woman, zero time to have sex. All your time, every waking second of your existence should go into bouncing the fuck back. And if you're not doing that, you're not a man. something has robbed you of your manhood. That's why I can confidently say, if you sitting on the curb, if you homeless, if you have nothing, and you sitting there, you're not a man. Something has taken your manhood. I still support you. Now, I'm not insensitive. I'm not walking over your head or whatever, but I'm saying like something took his manhood. He's basically a dead man walking. Because again, like, yeah, maybe you were working and you got hurt. But the fact that you were unable to adapt yourself to different things that the world found valuable, that's on you. That is on you as a man. Nobody is coming to save you. Save yourself. That's your mess up. That is your mistake that you have to own. If I come and show you sympathy and put you on your feet, you have to take off with that and run with it, because I put you on your feet. Okay, yeah, but I'm still not seeing you as a man. Once I put you on your feet, you have to take it and run with it, sustain it, and not make that mistake again. And then I will give you the title of being a man once again. But I'm telling you, if you see it less than that, I gotta really question where you're coming from in life. It can be on no other way. And so again, as you make money in this world, that is directly related to your manhood and how much of a man you are, how valuable of a man you are. Now, people get temporary infuses of money. Like you might get, 14 million, 50 million, whatever, being a rapper or whatever. But, that money leaves eventually. If you're not really walking out what it takes to be a man, that money goes. You feel me? So it's like you can never really fool people for long. You feel what I'm saying? Like if you look at a person like Jay-Z, rapped and like maybe, whatever he did, right? But as he got older, he adapted, and I don't know what he does now. I've never seen any financial records, but people still give him the credit for whatever. I don't know why, but you gotta admit that his manhood has far surpassed a lot of other people's manhood, strictly by being on top of his game so long. And that's what it's really about. It don't get no realer now. Some people might have accused me of being like, oh, well, you're money crazy. Nah, it ain't that. It's just that I see how the world works. Like your masculinity, your ability to stay focused as a man directly relates to your money, the money in the bank. So that's why, like, as me, like, when I go out and maybe I spend a little bit too much on vacation or whatever, I never get worried too much. Yes, I want to do better with my finances, but I never worry because I know I'm not drifting. I know I'm a more powerful man than a lot of my peers, strictly because I'm a junkie about this shit. Like I'm obsessed over this shit. If you've seen some of my files and some of my journals and stuff like that, you say, man, this man is obsessed, because I am. I'm obsessed with making mistakes. Not to the point where I try to make mistakes, but like I obsess, like even little mistakes, I go back to the drawing board, like what can I have done better there? And I'm trying to like do it better, and I'm going over. I'm like, okay, now I made this mistake. Now my higher self is going to come in and take over and prevent this mistake from ever happening again. That includes being accountable to my wife, to my organization that I work for, to my son, to my God. Being accountable to all of that, because I know there's no other way. Like being secretive, trying to hide shit. I know, bro. I know in my soul that there's no money, there's no benefit, there's no value in it. No woman's gonna want you. Now, some people might be like, well, for me, it's like my wife got access to like all the stuff that I got. My wife got access to that. So I don't have to ever sneak around or nothing. Not to say that I don't ever want to, because I'm a man and I'm just being real. But I still I that's because I know how men think. I know how physiology works. I know that I will never be able to get rid of some of those, I guess, some of those cravings, some of those things that I want to do. But I also know that I have the power to combat that. I know I have the power to go against myself on those things. So, yes, she gets free reign through all of my stuff. And some people might be like, well, you still need your own privacy. Like, you being a simp and all of that stuff. You don't really use words like that when you get to this level. You use words like, yeah, I'm fully accountable. I'm going to the top. Ain't nobody ever going to have shit on me. And it is what it is. This is just going to better me. This is just going to harden me for when I do take over that company. When I do become the president of that company. Like, my game is going to be so tight. Airtight. To the point to where it's like, you know, when I'm looking at my bank account, when I'm looking at the school that my kids going to, when I'm looking at like our vacations and the things that we're doing as a family, the people that I'm helping get on their feet, like all that's going to be airtight and indestructible because I'm making good decisions every day. Like I'm obsessed with good habits. I'm just obsessing over that now because I truly believe in the power of that. And I truly believe that, yes, racism might exist. Yes, prejudice might exist. Yes, somebody might look at my not my background check, but like where I grew up. Somebody might look at my college and be like, "Oh wow, your college ain't like you didn't go to Harvard, you didn't go to Wharton." Somebody might look at it and be like, "Who's this dude?" But I'm telling you right now, my focus, my disdain for drifting, like all of that. My obsession with good habits, my obsession with being a man, my obsession with being accountable, all that's going to pay off and help me. Like I'm going to achieve what I want to achieve. Because I'm going to bump myself around. I'm going to knock myself around until I finally get it. I'm going to drift, and then finally hit that. It's like if you ever been at a target. I mean, if you ever, shot a gun, like been at a gun range. And you hold your 9mm, you hold your rifle or whatever you got, and you're aiming for like center mass, like in the middle of that target, and you shoot, and you might pull to the left, you might pull to the right. The ideal is not to shoot once and then hit that first time. Like who wants to do that? No one wants to do that. Like you want to have so much history behind shooting. You want to shoot so many bullets in your lifetime to where you can think of the reasons, every little reason why you would drift off of that target. So that's what it's about. You shot so many times so we're like, man, yeah, I've drifted for 3 or 4 years and finally I can hit, probably with my eyes closed, I can hit the center mass of that target every single time. So yeah, it's not about like having some God-given skill, although if you do got it, that helps. But having so much time and practice and effort under your belt to where it's like, I got it under control now. So all you guys out there doing semen retention, somebody might say, or all you guys out there that's trying to be a better man in your religion, a better man in your town, a better man in your woman, a lot of people might just tell you, don't give up. But it's a little bit more complicated than that. Not just don't give up, but track your misses. Track every time you drifted. Take note of that stuff and be like, okay, well, what types of boundaries and barriers and preventions can I put in place to prevent those things? How can I convince myself that I am 100% committed to hitting the target every time? What can I put in place? And when you put those things in place, not only do they act to help you, but you have basically set in motion a sort of a prayer that says, hey, I want this, and to prove that I want this, I have done X, Y, and Z. And that's how you get that done. And nobody can fool with you if you got a track record of doing that over and over again. You know, if I'm Kobe Bryant and I'm shooting in the gym and I'm shooting a basketball and I keep pulling the shot right or I keep pulling like air ball, where am I like what muscle do I need to strengthen? What muscle is going weak when I shoot that shot? You know, how can I get so used to throwing the ball the correct distance that it's muscle memory? How many shots, how much effort needs to be under my belt? Go to the nth degree, to the nth degree. Don't matter how many degrees you need to go to. Go to that degree. Put exponential amount of time. Put the time in, because that is, not only does the time help, not only does the practice help, but that is a prayer. I keep telling you, that's a prayer that you've set in motion to say, hey, I want this. I want this because I have put this amount of time in. This is proof that I really want this. And you become a junkie about it. And that's it. And that is the perpetual cycle of a man. Like, you even do that. You do that at home. You do that in your workplace. You do that with your health. I mean, who can stop you at that point? But nobody will tell you this. People would rather you smoke. People would rather you drink and chase women. Because if black men are out of the way, that is a formidable opponent that is out of the way. We're strong. We're resilient. We're beautiful. Like, I can say a bunch of things about the black man right now. 100 things. Like, I love black men. I love black men across the globe. African Americans, regular Africans, Haitians. Like, I believe, like, I guess because I'm a black man as well, but I believe more in you than you believe in you. I do. Maybe it's a weakness of mine, but like a lot of times, like, dudes just, they drift. Like, I always wonder, like, how could you be so, like, and I'm talking to the black Americans in this one, how could you be so gung-ho and so attached to those dreads, but yet and still want a corporate job, or yet and still want to be paid like Elon Musk or somebody like that? Knowing the game that I just gave you. If you want dreads, if you want like tattoos on your face and stuff, I'm not hating, but that is in the direction of a rapper and an entertainer. Go that direction and don't drift. When it doesn't work, don't pivot back to Walmart. Stay with it. Sleep outside. Get you a tent and sleep in front of the studio. Sleep on Hollywood Boulevard. You know, eat out of a trash can until you finally get it. But don't drift off of that path. Like, once you grow them dreads, or you could be a basketball player as well. One of those two. Don't come up off that path for nobody. Even to the point to where you starve to death. Don't come, like, even if it means death for you, don't come up off that path. Ever. That is the only way. You know, once you cut those dreads and then you get clean cut and remove those tattoos, then you can lean the other way. But once you choose certain things like that to mark your body, or, you know, make yourself stand out like that, then you limit the paths. It is what it is. You just gotta know that as a black man. No, you can't make decisions in this world and there not be consequences, or there not be either open paths or closed paths. One of the two are gonna happen. You cut your hair and be clean cut, more paths are gonna open up for you. It just is what it is. You grow dreads, you get tattoos, you're gonna close some paths. Not all paths are closed, but you're not gonna be able to work for like Fortune 500 company, being the face of that company. This is not gonna happen. So yeah, you should know that, but you gotta think through these things. Yeah, I think that's gonna end my podcast. I hope you liked it. I just want to see you guys get some real money and stop fooling yourselves. I do, man. And don't worry about the women or if a woman wants you. Like if you decide today to cut your hair and decide to get your tattoos removed and all that, don't worry about a woman wanting you. Because I tell you, it's not about none of that shit. Women, like the workplace, women, your children, your wife, anybody around you, all they want is effort, man. All they want is effort. All they want to do is see that you putting up the effort. And I'm reading this book by Matthew McConaughey called Green Lights, and he's just saying green light everywhere, all over the book. And he's like, every time like people see the effort, the charisma, and things like that, he gets the green lights. And I'm thinking back to my life, and I'm like, boom, I got the same thing. When there was effort there, but the minute that I felt like I could like just lean on my accomplishments, like people was gone. Like you're gonna see effort from me. If I don't have the energy, if I'm getting frustrated, I want to go back to the drawing board and see what I can do. Because that effort is going to be also needed as I make myself more accountable. Sometimes like this shit get uncomfortable. Sometimes I be wanting to like sit back and watch porn and stuff like that, and I gotta think that somebody's gonna get an alert if I watch some porn and masturbate again. Somebody's gonna get an alert out of my chain of friends because I'm accountable to a lot of people. You know, if I sit here and bullshit and not do nothing all day, somebody's going to know that. So why don't I just get on my path and do the things that I want to do and be an actualized man, even if it hurts a little bit, even if it kills me, I'm going to be a man. That's what I'm going to be, man. So I hope you like this podcast. I hope you subscribe. And I'm telling you, like, no matter what, no matter how things turn out, like, I'm going to be doing this. Because not only do I need to tell other black men what I'm saying, but I also need to hear it myself.